here's how to catch a common if-then fallacy. Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia, and today let's look at a type of formal fallacy or an invalid form of argument called affirming the consequent. For example, what's wrong with the following argument? If you're out of gas, then your car won't start. Your car won't start, therefore you're out of gas. This is a fallacy because, as you probably noticed, the conclusion you're out of gas doesn't necessarily follow from the premise that your car won't start. There could be other reasons why your car won't start, like maybe your battery died or your alternator failed. And that's the basic problem with if-then arguments, also called conditional arguments, which use this structure. It's an argument pattern known as affirming the consequent. Like we saw in the last video, the consequent is the then statement in an if-then argument, and it's often presented with the letter Q. In this case, Q is the statement, your car won't start. The if statement, meanwhile, is called the antecedent, which is represented with the letter P. In this case, P is the statement, you're out of gas. So, affirming the consequent means showing that the consequent Q is true in order to argue that the antecedent P is true, using the structure if P, then Q, Q, therefore P. This is a fallacy because, like in the car example, there are usually other ways for the conclusion to be true. The only case when affirming the consequent works is if there are no other ways for the antecedent to be true besides the consequent being true, using the structure if and only if P, then Q. Q, therefore P. Like, if you have a birthday, then your legal age increases by 1 year. Your legal age has just increased by 1 year. Therefore, you've just had a birthday. This argument is valid, even though it affirms the consequent, because there's no other way for your legal age to increase besides having a birthday. With that in mind, let's see how these types of arguments might come up in creation-evolution contexts. For example, one common argument for evolution we talked about in episode 45 goes like this. If different kinds of animals, like bats and whales, share the same evolutionary ancestor, then those animals will probably share similar features, like forelimb bones. Bats and whales do have similar forelimb bones. Therefore, bats and whales likely have the same evolutionary ancestor. This argument might sound persuasive, but its conclusion isn't necessarily true, because there could be another reason why bats and whales' forelimb bones look similar, like they were created by the same designer who invented a good design which worked for many applications. That's why it's always helpful to check for other alternative explanations when you hear an assumption from historical science presented as a fact. By doing so, you can not only separate fact from interpretation, which is check 6 of critical thinking, but also potentially spot faulty logic like affirming the consequent, which is check 7 of critical thinking, check the logic. But wait a minute, doesn't a common argument for creation affirm the consequent too? The argument states, if God created life, then life should show excellent complex design features. Life does show excellent complex design features. Therefore, God created life. Is this a fallacy? Let's think about it. Remember, affirming the consequent is only a fallacy if there are other ways for the antecedent to be true. So this argument would only be flawed if it were possible for excellent complex design features in living things to arise naturally, and ultimately for living cells to arise from inanimate chemicals. But like you can learn from other resources, including the ones linked to this video, there are no known mechanisms by which inanimate chemicals can realistically assemble themselves into even a single living cell, or for natural processes to produce functional genetic information for complex new features. So while it's a fallacy to say that mammal forelimbs necessarily point to evolutionary origins, it's not a fallacy to say that life's complexity necessarily points to a creator, God. For more on how to think critically about any faith-challenging messages, you can access my other CT Scan episodes packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helped me as a Christian student at secular university. Thank you for watching. It's Patricia. Just wanting to let you know that if you like these videos, are on board to share the message of biblical authority, and want to give, you're welcome to help Answers in Genesis produce more content like this and equip more people to defend their faith by making a one-time donation or becoming a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thanks so much.